In Japan's Edo period, a samurai named Oishi Yashio trained his followers for nearly 2 years before launching a rebellion that would last just 40 days. The air was heavy with the scent of cedar and damp earth as they stood in the cramped training hall, surrounded by rice paper walls adorned with intricate wood carvings. The wooden floor creaked softly beneath their feet, polished to a high sheen by generations of use. Outside, the sound of rain pattered against the tatami mats. What if you were one of Oishi's followers? Would your dedication be enough to survive the grueling training regimen and face off against the shogun's men? Would your loyalty be tested when faced with the harsh realities of battle? Could you handle the moral complexities that came with serving a cause greater than yourself, or would you falter under the weight of personal consequences? If you're listening to this to fall asleep, that's exactly why I make these. Drop a comment and tell me where you are and what time it is. I read every single one. As the rain continues outside, the sound of dripping water becomes almost soothing, lulling you into a state of relaxation. The sweet scent of pickled plum wafts through the air, carried by the gentle breeze that stirs the leaves of the nearby maple trees. It's a familiar smell in these parts, one that brings memories of late summer afternoons spent helping your mother prepare for the upcoming harvest festival. You find yourself standing outside the small family home, nestled between two larger estates on the outskirts of a rural village. The year is 1635, and you're about to embark on a journey through Japan's Edo period as a low-ranking samurai in training. Your instructors have warned you that this path won't be an easy one. The long hours, strict etiquette, and rigorous training will test your limits. Your hands are still damp from the morning's bath, and the cold air carries a hint of wood smoke from the nearby kitchen. The warmth emanating from within beckons you to come closer, but for now you linger outside, taking in the sights and sounds of this tranquil morning scene. A soft chirping echoes through the trees as a flock of birds flit about, chasing after insects that dance in the sunlight filtering through the leaves. A faint scent of incense carries on the breeze from the nearby shrine, mingling with the plum's tartness to create an intoxicating aroma. Your stomach growls softly at the promise of breakfast inside, steaming bowls of miso soup, and perhaps some freshly baked rice cakes, if your mother is feeling generous. You push open the creaky door and step into the warm glow within. The scent of cooking oil and simmering broth envelops you like a hug from an old friend. Your stomach rumbles louder now as you scan the kitchen's bustling activity, pots clanging against stone countertops, steam rising in wispy tendrils above steaming bowls. Your mother stands at the cooking range, expertly juggling multiple pans with one hand while holding the lid on another with a pair of tongs. Her dark hair is tied back into a neat knot, revealing a smudge of flour across her left cheekbone, a testament to last night's baking session. A wispy strand escapes, curling around her ear like a tender branch. She catches your gaze and offers a warm smile, the faint scent of pickled plums still lingering on her lips. Konnichiwa, she says softly, acknowledging your presence without breaking stride as she works. You wander over to the low table at the far end of the room, where a steaming bowl of miso soup waits for you. Your father's favorite wooden chopsticks lean against an empty rice bowl, a nod to his impending return from this morning's visit to the nearby market. The faint rustle of paper and quill on parchment whispers softly in the background as your younger brother scribbles away, attempting to master the intricacies of calligraphy. As you take your first sip of steaming broth, the flavors dance across your tongue, rich soy sauce mingling with a hint of ginger's subtle warmth. Your mother joins you at the table, gently setting down a bowl before returning to her cooking duties. The sounds and scents within this small kitchen blend together in perfect harmony. Sizzling meat, simmering vegetables, and the soft chatter that accompanies each family member as they begin their day. This morning scene seems almost serene, an oasis amidst the demands of samurai training that await you outside these familiar walls. But beneath its tranquil surface lies a complex web of expectations, traditions, and obligations that threaten to overwhelm even those who have grown accustomed to them. You glance around at your family's gentle bustle, taking in each face as they go about their morning routines. Your mother works tirelessly behind the scenes, ensuring everyone is fed and content, her hands moving with practiced ease as she coaxes life from raw ingredients into nourishing meals. Your father returns home a short while later, his market basket overflowing with fresh produce and meats for tonight's dinner. His eyes brighten at your presence around the table, but you sense an undercurrent of exhaustion beneath his smile, a reminder that even these quiet hours are spent juggling multiple roles: provider, protector, teacher. As breakfast draws to a close, your mother hands each family member a small paper package containing steaming rice cakes. The delicate pastry unfolds like silk between your fingers as you take a tentative bite, the soft crunch yielding to a light, airy texture within that dissolves on your tongue like morning fog dissipating in sunlight. You linger at the table, savoring this moment's simple pleasure amidst the demands ahead. But time won't stand still forever. Soon enough, it will be back to training and duty discipline imposed upon you through early rising and physical exertion. Today might not have been an epic battle or a grand adventure, but within these quiet moments lies strength for what comes next, endurance forged from countless mornings like this one. The warmth of the morning sun seeps into your bones as it filters through the windows above, casting dappled shadows across the wooden floorboards and illuminating dust motes dancing in its gentle rays. For now, at least, you have a brief respite before facing whatever comes next. As you sit on the tatami mat, feeling the softness beneath your feet and the gentle warmth emanating from the sunbeam, you're lulled into a state of tranquility. The scent of freshly brewed green tea wafts through the air, carried by the subtle breeze that stirs the curtains. For a moment, all seems right with the world. But as you settle deeper into your cushions, a faint rumbling sound catches your attention like thunder on the horizon, but closer, more insistent. Your eyes flick towards the door where a young servant girl stands hesitantly, her face a mask of concern. She bows low and begins to speak in hushed tones. "Forgive me, honorable guest, but Master Nakamura requests your presence in the kitchen." You feel a slight pang of curiosity mixed with trepidation as you rise from your seated position. The servant girl leads you through the winding corridors of the estate, navigating narrow passageways and stepping over mats rolled up against the walls to reveal hidden storage spaces. As you enter the kitchen, the pungent aroma of cooking rice envelops you like a shroud. Nakamura-san himself stands at the center of the room, surrounded by his retinue of cooks and servants. His eyes narrow as he takes in your arrival. "Ah, guest," he says curtly, "I trust you're finding our humble abode to your liking." You nod politely, unsure what response is expected of you. "In any case, I've summoned you for a matter that requires your particular expertise." Nakamura-san's gaze drifts towards the large cooking vat at the center of the room, where two servants are frantically stirring its contents. "It seems our batch of rice has gone rancid." The kitchen erupts into a flurry of activity as the staff begins to discuss the cause and possible solutions for the spoiled grain. Nakamura-san turns his attention back to you. "As I'm sure you're aware, guest, a samurai's honor is tied closely to his ability to provide for his lord and family. In this case, we've been preparing for an important ceremony in 2 days' time, one that requires our finest rice as an offering. With the current crop compromised, shall we say." Nakamura-san pauses, surveying you with a calculating gaze. "I believe it's only fitting that someone of your particular skills take on this challenge." You feel a shiver run down your spine as the weight of his words settles upon you. Your mind scrambles to recall what exactly Nakamura-san means by particular skills, and whether they'll be sufficient for the task at hand. "Yeah, but—" Nakamura-san raises a hand, silencing you before you can speak further. "No need to explain, guest. I'm sure your talents will prove adequate. After all, it's not as if we're asking you to master the intricacies of Ikebana or compose an elegy in praise of the cherry blossoms." The kitchen staff exchange uneasy glances at this barbed comment. "Very well then," Nakamura-san continues, his tone dripping with condescension. "I'll entrust our guest with the task of salvaging what can be saved from this batch of rice and preparing a new offering for the ceremony in 2 days' time." You feel your face grow hot as you realize the true nature of your assignment: to redeem yourself in the eyes of Nakamura-san, but also, perhaps more importantly, to prove that even an outsider such as yourself can rise above the mundane tasks expected of someone like them. As the kitchen erupts into a new flurry of activity, with some staff attempting to salvage what little they can from the spoiled rice and others hurrying off to prepare for your task ahead, you're left standing alone amidst the chaos. The weight of Nakamura-san's words settles upon you once more, this time like a physical force that threatens to crush you beneath its oppressive weight. For in this moment, as the sunbeams dance across the kitchen floor and the scent of rancid rice clings heavy in the air, you're faced with an unspoken truth. In the world of samurai honor, one's status is built upon layers of expectation, each carefully crafted to prove oneself worthy. And should any single expectation fail, the scent of damp paper wafts through the air as you hold a worn leather-bound book in your hands. The cover creaks slightly when you open it, releasing a faint whisper of decay. You've been tasked with cataloging the collection of an old samurai's library, and this tome is one of many that have caught your attention. It's the record of a forgotten rebellion. Inside these yellowed pages, you find hand-drawn illustrations of battles fought in distant lands, accompanied by cryptic notes on dates and alliances. The text itself appears to be written in an archaic dialect, with few discernible connections to the language spoken today. Faint smudges suggest that someone has handled this book recently, perhaps even within the past year. You begin to wonder who might have added these annotations and what their intentions were. Were they a fellow scholar seeking clarification on obscure references, or a collector attempting to bolster his collection's credibility? Or could it be something more? As you delve deeper into the text, the pages start to thin out, revealing scraps of paper tucked between its leaves. One such fragment appears to be a poem. The wind whispers secrets in my ear, of ancestors who fought and bled for honor true. Their valor shines like stars on clear nights gleam. Yet in our time, their names are lost to the ages. The handwriting is neat but hasty, with no discernible signature or indication of its authorship. It's as if this poem was written by someone who wanted to leave a mark, without leaving any identifying information behind. You set the book aside for now and begin examining other texts in the collection, hoping that one might shed more light on the mysterious poem and its possible connections to your own investigation. In another volume, you find an account of the 1651 rebellion led by Yoshimura Shigenabu against the Tokugawa shogunate. Your eyes wander as you read about battles fought in forests now long gone, names that echo through history like whispers, people whose lives were once marked by conflict and then lost to time. The book itself seems heavy on its wooden desk, weighed down not just by its own physical mass, but also the accumulated stories of those who wrote within it. Some pages have been torn out or are missing altogether, leaving behind a faint scent of decay that seems to cling to your fingers as you turn them. You wonder if this rebellion was truly forgotten, lost in the passing years like autumn leaves on the wind, or if someone deliberately sought to conceal its legacy from history's gaze. In another room within the old estate, a servant is busy sweeping away dust and debris left behind by last night's storm. Her broom scratches against wooden floors creaking underfoot as she glides effortlessly through spaces your own footsteps disturb with each step you take. The air outside has grown heavier in recent hours, weighed down by an approaching thunderstorm that promises rain. You can almost taste the moisture suspended above like a promise yet unkept. The scent of wet earth and ozone mingles with smoke from last night's cooking fire still lingering on kitchen surfaces. You recall walking through nearby streets earlier today, listening to locals haggle over prices for newly harvested crops, while farmers nearby debated optimal planting dates based on weather patterns observed during past year's harvests. Amidst these mundane discussions, you couldn't help but overhear conversations about the recent rumors of a hidden cache somewhere in this valley, an alleged hoard containing ancient artifacts and texts thought to be lost forever. As night begins its descent upon your surroundings, flickering candles cast eerie shadows on walls adorned with faded samurai coats, now relegated to mere decorative items rather than battle armor. The once mighty men who wore them have long since passed into history's shadow, leaving behind their stories in dusty pages such as this one. As I delved deeper into the dusty pages, the whispers of forgotten battles and fallen comrades began to stir within me. The flickering candles cast an otherworldly glow upon the parchment, illuminating the faded ink that told tales of a bygone era. The words danced across the page like specters, weaving a narrative of trials and tribulations that would test even the mettle of the most stalwart samurai. The record of a forgotten rebellion spoke of a time long past, when the great daimyo Matsumoto Hiratsugu ruled over these lands with an iron fist. His was a name whispered in reverence by his people and terrorized by those who dared oppose him. But beneath the surface of this seemingly unyielding authority lay a web of deceit and corruption that would eventually prove to be its downfall. Hiratsugu's reign had been marked by brutal suppression of dissent, with any who dared challenge his rule being summarily executed or exiled to remote corners of the empire. His own men were often as ruthless as their lord, and even those who served him most faithfully lived in constant fear of falling out of favor. Yet it was not Hiratsugu's cruelty that ultimately led to his demise. Rather, it was a trait far more insidious: complacency. He had grown fat with the comforts of power, relying on his once formidable armies and the loyalty of his vassals without ever truly questioning their motives or loyalties. It was not long before whispers began to circulate among the lower ranks that Hiratsugu's rule was built upon shaky ground. Factions within his own household conspired against him, manipulating events from behind the scenes with an air of calculated cunning. His advisors, many of whom had been bought and paid for by rival daimyos seeking to weaken their neighbor, fed him information carefully crafted to maintain his grip on power while undermining his authority. One name kept appearing in these whispers: Kaito Yamato, a young and ambitious ronin who had once served under Hiratsugu's own banner. He was said to be the mastermind behind the plot, his skills as both strategist and assassin unmatched among those of his generation. Some claimed he was driven by revenge against the daimyo for the death of a brother or friend. Others whispered that his true loyalty lay elsewhere, with another faction altogether. I found myself growing more engrossed in these tales as I turned page after page, devouring every word like one famished and long lost to the world outside. The record spoke not only of battles won and lost, but also of trials within, personal struggles that would test even the strongest wills against adversity's unyielding tide. Kaido Yamato's story was especially compelling, a testament to both his genius as a tactician and the depth of his conviction in justice, no matter how misguided it may have been. He walked a razor-thin line between loyalty and betrayal, ever careful not to reveal too much about his true intentions or allegiance. The daimyo himself seemed oblivious to these machinations, however, consumed by an insatiable hunger for power that would eventually prove all-consuming. His downfall was a gradual one, a crumbling edifice of deceit and corruption built upon shifting sands. When the dust finally settled, Hiratsugu lay shattered alongside his once loyal vassals, cast out as worthless relics in the annals of history. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that this was not just some dusty relic from the past, but rather an echo of events yet to come. The cycles of power and corruption, rebellion and retribution played themselves out anew with each passing generation, like the seasons on a great wheel turning eternally through time. And then there were those who said that such stories held secrets hidden beneath their surface, whispers of other worlds beyond this one where samurai fought battles not for honor but survival, tales of shadowy realms governed by unseen forces whose influence seeped into our own, ever influencing the path we choose to tread. I pushed aside these speculations as nothing more than baseless fantasy, though even now a part of me wondered. But that was then, and this is my story, not theirs. As night wore on, the candles burning low like dying embers, I realized it had been hours since I'd last looked outside. The darkness beyond seemed to press in upon me with an almost palpable weight, urging me onward through these dusty pages as if driven by some unseen force. The musty scent of aged parchment wafts up from the pages, carrying with it whispers of forgotten battles and dusty castles. As I continue to dig through the stacks, my fingers brush against a worn leather binding that crackles beneath their touch. The worn cover yields slowly, releasing its contents into my hands like a hesitant sigh. A yellowed book slips free, its covers creaking in protest as it settles onto the wooden desk before me. The title page reads Tales of the Golden Age, a nameless author scribbled beneath the words in elegant calligraphy. I recognize the style. It's reminiscent of the works penned by those great masters of old, Shido, Matsukawa, and Hirota. The contents page lists chapters on honor, duty, and loyalty, familiar themes that echo through countless samurai manuals. My eyes wander to a watercolor illustration depicting a serene landscape at dawn, with cherry blossoms blooming in the distance like delicate pink fireworks against a pale blue sky. An almost imperceptible tremble runs along my fingertips as I turn the pages. The artwork seems inconsistent, one moment an elegant line, the next it falters into crude scrawls. The text itself is penned with care. Words are carefully selected and placed to create sentences that flow like a river over smooth stones. Sentences build upon each other in intricate patterns, conveying ideas that unfold slowly like petals on a flower. I pause, tracing my finger along the lines of the written text. This author's hand was steady indeed. As I delve deeper into the book's contents, a faint rustling noise carries through from beyond the doorway, accompanied by hushed conversations and muffled footsteps echoing down the hallway outside our small temple quarters. The sound reminds me that time remains unforgiving. We have only so many hours left before dawn breaks over this tranquil land. The words dance upon my gaze like fireflies on a summer evening, tantalizing yet fleeting, as I continue to turn through the book's yellowed pages, drinking in the history they hold. Every line is imbued with an air of nostalgia, carrying whispers from days long past when honor and loyalty ruled over petty concerns. Our young master, Ushitora, strolls into the room now, his footsteps hushed as he takes a seat across from me on the cushions beside the desk. His eyes scan the pages scattered before us, those with worn corners, creased folds, or yellowed edges bearing witness to countless nights spent poring over dusty texts. He breaks the silence first. Is this one of Hirota's works? I've heard tell he crafted exquisite words that could stir even the coldest heart. His eyes flicker toward me as if expecting an answer. The quiet morning light casts his features in a gentle haze. It would be easy to become lost within their depths. I nod thoughtfully, running my fingers along the book's binding once more before responding quietly. This style is reminiscent of Hirota, but I'm not certain. It may also have been penned by someone from a different region, perhaps one influenced heavily by Shido's teachings. Ushitora's gaze lingers on the pages, as if searching for some hidden truth within their lines. For a moment, his eyes seem lost in thought, then they refocus upon me once more. Perhaps we could ask Sensei when he returns. I'm certain he'd be able to clarify which author is responsible, Ushitora suggests with an easy smile that eases the tension from our conversation. His suggestion brings forth a faint scent of damp earth and wet stone, reminding us both that the morning dew on the temple's grounds still clings to the air. The soft rustle of leaves outside carries through once more as if in agreement. It is indeed time for another day to begin its unfolding beneath the rising sun. Our conversation drifts further into trivial matters. Ushitora's queries about this book and my thoughts on whether our sensei will be returning by dawn. It occurs to me that perhaps we should take a walk before he arrives. Fresh air might help clarify any lingering doubts about these dusty texts. As we stepped out into the crisp morning air, the dew-kissed grass beneath our feet was like a gentle awakening from the slumber of night. The sky above was a deep shade of indigo, slowly giving way to hues of pink and orange as the sun began its ascent. I breathed in deeply, feeling invigorated by the scent of blooming cherry blossoms carried on the breeze. Ushitora smiled beside me, his eyes squinting slightly against the morning light. "Perhaps we should head towards the east garden," he said, gesturing towards a pathway that wound its way through a cluster of pines. The early sunbeams filter through there in such a way. It's almost like walking into a painting. I nodded in agreement and followed him along the winding path, our footsteps quiet on the gravel beneath. The air was filled with an expectant hush, as if nature itself were holding its breath in anticipation of another day unfolding. We strolled through the east garden, pausing to admire the way sunlight danced across intricate patterns etched into the stone floor. I couldn't help but feel a sense of calm wash over me. These tranquil moments always seemed to clear my mind and focus my thoughts. Ushitora's hand brushed against mine as we walked side by side, not in any deliberate gesture, just an unconscious movement born from years of companionship. Eventually, our leisurely pace carried us towards the garden's edge, where a small clearing offered a panoramic view of the surrounding landscape. The distant mountains rose like wispy brushstrokes on a watercolor canvas, their peaks still capped with swirling clouds that seemed reluctant to surrender to dawn. Ushitora halted beside me, his gaze fixed upon some distant point beyond our garden's boundaries. His expression was one of contemplation, and I sensed he might be lost in thought about the same subject we'd been discussing before, the sensei's return perhaps, or a passage from that book which had sparked an epiphany. I broke the silence by nudging him gently with my elbow. "What is it?" I asked softly, trying not to disturb his reverie. He blinked slowly, refocusing on me as if waking from a dream. "Just remembering," he said wistfully, "the last time our sensei spoke about that particular text. He said something profound, but at the same time disturbing. My curiosity was piqued, and I leaned in closer to press for more information." Ashitora's words hung suspended like a promise, one that would unfold only if he chose to reveal it. We lingered there a while longer, standing beneath the watchful gaze of our garden's ancient trees. A soft breeze rustled through their leaves, creating an eerie whispering that conjured memories from years past when I'd walked these very paths with my sensei by my side. In those days, the world seemed less complicated, just a vast expanse waiting to be explored and understood. But with each passing year, shadows crept in like thieves under cover of night, snatching away pieces of our innocence. Ashitora's words had mentioned something disturbing. Perhaps it was only my imagination running wild at this early hour. Yet the sensation persisted, an unshakable feeling that our world had shifted subtly, ever so quietly, into a realm where nothing was as certain or clear-cut as once believed. As we stood there in contemplative silence, I became acutely aware of Ushitora's unease. His breathing grew more labored, and he seemed on the verge of sharing something vital, an epiphany perhaps, but one born from shadows rather than light. I leaned against a nearby stone for support, my eyes locked onto his expectant form. "Tell me," I urged softly, trying to coax him into revealing whatever secret was brewing beneath that enigmatic gaze of his. Ushitora took another moment before speaking in hushed tones, as if sharing something forbidden yet necessary nonetheless. Ushitora's eyes dropped, avoiding mine for a fleeting moment before he continued in that same hushed tone. "It began with an incident," he said, choosing each word carefully as if weighing the consequences of speaking aloud. I leaned forward, my curiosity piqued by his hesitant demeanor. The room seemed to grow quieter, as if it too was attuned to the gravity of what Ushitora was about to reveal. "An incident," I pressed gently, trying not to convey any hint of urgency or impatience. He paused once more before nodding almost imperceptibly. "One of my comrades mislaid something precious." The way he said it sent a shiver down my spine. There was no malice in his tone, yet an unmistakable weight hung in the air like unshed rain clouds threatening to break. I sensed that I had stumbled upon a secret Ushitora kept hidden for years, one that could very well define him. "What happened?" The word slipped out before I could catch it, barely above a whisper, as if sharing a forbidden truth might shatter our fragile understanding of each other. Ushitora's gaze drifted toward the garden outside, where cherry blossoms danced in the gentle breeze like ethereal spirits trying to escape reality. His eyes remained lost for what felt like an eternity before they snapped back into focus on me. "It was a scroll," he said finally, his voice cracking with restraint. "The scroll," I repeated, baffled by how something so innocuous could be connected to the air of foreboding surrounding Ushitora's tale. His shoulders sagged ever so slightly as if weighed down by memories best left unspoken. "The favorite book of our clan's legendary leader, a text passed down through generations, containing the essence of our code and honor." The weight in his voice now was almost palpable. It felt like a mountain had been placed on my shoulders. I swallowed hard, trying to comprehend how something as abstract as an ancient scroll could cause such distress. "And you were involved," I ventured softly, sensing that Ushitora's involvement wasn't just coincidental but integral to the story he struggled to tell. Ashitora took a deep breath before speaking in a voice barely above a whisper, as if confessing a grave sin. "I was tasked with its safekeeping, and I failed." The implications hit me like an avalanche. Failure not only meant personal shame for Ashitora, but also the potential downfall of his entire clan's honor. The thought hung heavy between us, one that threatened to upend everything we had built in this unlikely bond. "It was during a battle," he continued, as if compelled by some unseen force to reveal more. "We were outnumbered and it got lost amidst the chaos." His words dropped like stones into a still pond, ripples of regret spread outward from him. I sat back, absorbing the weight of Ushitora's confession. The story wasn't just about misplacing an object, but a tale of duty, honor, and loyalty, all deeply intertwined with Japan's rich history and culture. It felt surreal, as if I was living someone else's life for them, yet bound to their fate by threads only visible in the cracks of Ushitora's stoic demeanor. Why tell me this? The question slipped out before I could consider its implications. It hung between us like a challenge or perhaps an opportunity, depending on how one chose to interpret Ushitora's motives. The scent of cedarwood wafts through the air, carried on a gentle breeze that stirs the tatami mats beneath your feet. You find yourself standing in the traditional Japanese home of a samurai family, surrounded by the familiar comforts of their daily life. The soft glow of lanterns casts flickering shadows on the walls as you make your way to the main room. The first thing you notice is the sense of quiet routine that pervades this space. Everything seems carefully considered and precisely arranged, from the neatly folded futon in the corner to the rows of fresh tatami mats laid out for polishing. It's a scene both peaceful and industrious at the same time, like watching a master painter working on a canvas. Ushitora stands beside you, his hands clasped behind his back as he observes your interest in their morning ritual. He seems content to let you absorb the atmosphere of this domestic space before offering any explanations or insights. You can't help but wonder what stories these tatami mats hold, tales of long hours spent polishing them, conversations shared while lounging on them, and perhaps even arguments that arose from disputes over whose turn it was to clean. The soft thud of a wooden mallet hitting the floor breaks your reverie, drawing you back to the present moment. The samurai wife, Emiko, has begun her daily task of cleaning the tatami mats with soap and water. Her hands move deftly as she scrubs each mat, working from one end of the room to the other without missing a single spot. The sound of running water provides a soothing accompaniment to this scene. It's almost like listening to a stream babbling over smooth stones on a forest floor. Emiko works with an air of quiet concentration, her face set in a determined expression as she tackles each mat with gentle yet firm strokes. Every now and then, she pauses to inspect the surface, carefully smoothing out any stubborn stains before moving on. You notice how carefully Emiko chooses which mats need attention first, selecting those closest to the entrance or most heavily used by family members. She treats these areas like sacred ground, treating each mat with a special care that's almost reverent in its precision. Meanwhile, Ushitora watches over her shoulder, occasionally offering words of encouragement or caution as she works. The scent of soap and cedarwood mingled together creates an intoxicating aroma that hangs heavy in the air. It smells like a mixture of fresh laundry, wood polish, and something faintly earthy all mixed together. You can't help but feel a sense of calm wash over you as you breathe this fragrance in deeply. It's clear from Emiko's movements that cleaning these mats is not just about removing dirt or stains. It's also an act of devotion, paying homage to the very foundation upon which their home rests. The tatami mat itself holds great significance, representing a connection between past and present generations within this family. Each delicate stitch in its surface reflects countless hours spent in contemplation, each intricate pattern telling stories of ancestors who came before. Emiko's attention to detail is almost superhuman. It would take someone with her patience and dedication mere minutes to finish polishing an entire room full of mats. But even she has days when the task seems overwhelming, perhaps after a long night's sleep or following a tiring session in the garden. On those mornings, every creaking floorboard sounds like thunderclap, each tiny imperfection visible under her magnifying glass. At one point, Emiko pauses to examine the underside of a particularly stubborn stain on a mat near the edge. She frowns as she works at it with a small brush, the soft scratching sound accompanied by an air of concentration is almost soothing in itself. Ushitora gently suggests trying another type of soap or maybe some additional rinsing water, his words falling into place like puzzle pieces clicking together perfectly. The room gradually grows quieter as Emiko works her way around each mat, so much so that you start to feel a strange sense of timelessness seep in through the stillness. It's not just about cleaning. It's an act of quiet reverence for every aspect of their lives, from daily routines to cherished memories stored within those delicate patterns. The room is bathed now in a warm golden light cast by high windows that filter out the noise and distractions outside, creating an almost meditative atmosphere where each breath feels like you're sipping pure tranquility. It's this subtle sense of balance between work, rest, and play that defines life as lived within these tatami-lined walls. Emiko places her brush down on a small wooden tray near the edge of the room, then takes up another tool, an even smaller comb used for smoothing out any fine fibers left behind after cleaning. Each delicate stroke sends tiny wisps fluttering towards the dustpan beside it, like lost feathers being carefully gathered in by some ethereal force. Ushitora's voice breaks into this serene tableau as he speaks quietly about how these daily rituals not only maintain their home, but also serve as a link to generations past, each mat holding its own unique story. You listen intently, trying to absorb the layers of meaning behind every stroke and decision made within this quiet space. The sun climbs higher outside now, casting an ever-widening ray across the room that highlights Emiko's precise movements with greater clarity still. Her hand pauses mid-stroke as a faint crease in her brow deepens into concern. It takes Ushitora just one gentle word to reassure her and send her working once more. Your own thoughts drift toward how exhausting this daily routine must be, polishing the very foundation of their lives until every grain is polished to perfection. You can almost feel Emiko's weariness seeping through, a sensation like standing on worn-out shoes that are just about ready for retirement but still somehow manage to carry you forward. And yet, despite all her effort and dedication, there remains something incomplete, an invisible thread weaving its way across the room, connecting each mat with every moment they've spent in this space. It's not a grand narrative. It's simply Emiko living out one more day within these familiar walls, guided by habits forged from countless routines shared with those around her. The scent of cedarwood now seems almost overpowering, an intoxicating blend that transports you to moments long past when family members gathered round the tatami mat to share stories or simply bask in each other's presence. Even as Emiko works on, every brush stroke another thread woven into this intricate tapestry of love and duty. The light filtering through those high windows grows ever softer now, a gentle golden haze that casts shadows upon the walls like whispered secrets shared among friends. It feels almost time for this quiet scene to conclude, perhaps with one final touch or word from Ushitora, his voice barely above a whisper as he acknowledges Emiko's handiwork. But even before anything is said, you feel yourself drifting into that same timeless world where past and present blend seamlessly together like threads of the same fabric. The very air itself seems woven from memories, each moment suspended in midair like delicate butterflies caught within the intricate patterns etched upon those revered tatami mats. And so the scene fades away, leaving behind only whispers of a long-forgotten day spent lost among the quiet rhythms and rituals that make up life as lived by this samurai family. The gentle lapping of water against the stone basin in the corner of the room was like music to his ears. It signaled the start of another day's routine for Kaido, a young samurai in training under the guidance of his master Hiro. The morning sun cast its warm rays through the shoji screens, illuminating the precise patterns etched into each tatami mat with an otherworldly light. Kaido knelt beside the basin, dipping a soft-bristled brush into the water before beginning to gently scrub at the intricate designs on one of the mats. His master had once told him that the art of cleaning these sacred surfaces was not merely about removing dirt and dust, but also about reconnecting with the essence of their craftsmanship. As he worked, Kaido's mind began to wander back to his previous night's struggle with the art of Iaido. He remembered standing on the edge of the training hall, trying to execute a perfect draw while facing the mirror-smooth surface of the shoji screen behind Master Hiro. The blade had seemed to slip from his grasp like a snake slithering through water, leaving him frustrated and ashamed. But now, as he focused on the delicate patterns before him, Kaido felt his breathing slow, becoming one with the soothing rhythm of water dripping into the basin. His hand moved with precision and care, coaxing the dirt loose from its hiding places without disrupting the fine lines that crisscrossed each mat like a spider's web. The scent of soap wafted up to greet him as he cleaned, mingling with the faint fragrance of cedar wood polish carried on the breeze through the open shoji panels. Kaido closed his eyes for an instant, letting the familiar scents envelop him in their comforting familiarity. It was moments like these that reminded him why his family had chosen this path, to cultivate a sense of discipline and harmony with nature. Just then, Master Hiro appeared at the doorway, dressed in formal attire but without the ceremonial sword. His presence commanded attention even when unarmed, as if he embodied an aura of stillness within which all movement became fluid and effortless. Kaido bowed respectfully before speaking. "Sensei, I am honored that you have come to witness my cleaning ritual." His master smiled wryly. "Indeed, Kaido-san. Cleaning is not merely about removing the physical dirt, but also about purging our inner selves of distractions. Are you prepared for your lesson today?" Kaido hesitated before responding truthfully, knowing full well that he was far from being worthy of such an honor, yet unable to conceal his eagerness. "I have given much thought to my failures in Iaido and wish to improve with all due haste." Master Hiro nodded gravely, but offered no words of encouragement or warning. Instead, he beckoned Kaido to rise and follow him out into the training hall. As they walked side by side beneath the low-hanging beams, their footsteps echoing softly on the tatami mats now gleaming like polished jewels in the morning light, Kaido felt his stomach tighten with anticipation mixed with trepidation. He knew that he was being led toward a confrontation not just of physical prowess, but also of mental and spiritual strength. The training hall awaited them, its cold stone floor seeming to absorb all sound, as if listening intently for any misstep in the lessons about to unfold. Kaido steeled himself for what lay ahead, discipline that bordered on brutality when wielded against one's own weaknesses, an inner turmoil from which only mastery could emerge like a butterfly unfolding its delicate wings, strong and resilient. In this atmosphere of quiet expectation, where every breath seemed heavy with the promise of transformation or collapse, Kaido followed Master Hiro toward their next lesson. The smell of fermented rice wafts through the air, carrying with it memories of long-forgotten harvests and distant mountains. Kaido stands in front of a small wooden tub, its surface scarred from years of use. The grainy texture of the sake mash beneath his fingers is both familiar and unwelcoming, like old friends who insist on bringing up past grievances. Master Hiro's patient voice drifts through Kaido's thoughts as he tries to recall the correct sequence for preparing Junmai-dai Jinjo, a delicate process that demands precision. The sound of water dripping into the tub echoes through the dojo, punctuating each passing moment like a metronome marking time in an endless ritual. Water from the nearby well flows gently into the wooden vat, its rhythmic gurgling accompanied by Master Hiro's soft corrections as Kaido stirs the mash with a long-handled wooden spoon. As Kaido's eyes follow the curved path of the spoon through the tub, he notices the way sunlight catches on tiny imperfections in the wood grain. The effect is almost mesmerizing, like watching fireflies dance around lanterns on a summer evening. His thoughts begin to wander to the recent harvest festival, where they'd spent countless hours celebrating under star-studded skies. A faint hum of beeswax and cedarwood wafts from Master Hiro's nearby desk, mingling with the scent of sake mash as he inspects Kaido's technique. The delicate balance between earthy notes from the cedar and sweet undertones from the honey, a subtle combination that only becomes apparent after hours spent in contemplative silence. As Kaido continues his task, sweat trickles down his spine beneath the weight of his hakama, its stiff folds chafing against his skin like a well-worn saddle. The ache of fatigue seeps into his shoulders as he leans forward to stir the mash once more, every action demanding precision and patience in equal measure. Master Hiro's words echo through Kaido's mind. A good sake is built on harmony, not force. With each passing moment, the weight of responsibility settles heavier upon him, like carrying a basket full of damp stones up steep stairs. The sensation lingers long after he sets down the spoon and wipes his hands clean. Kaido takes a deep breath as Master Hiro begins to explain the principles behind sake brewing. He speaks in hushed tones that barely carry beyond their immediate surroundings, yet somehow convey an air of reverence for this ancient craft. Words like Yamahai and Genmeicha weave together into an intricate tapestry, each term a reminder that beneath layers of cultural significance lies a simple reality: rice. With the morning sun slowly climbing over the nearby rooftops, Kaido feels his thoughts untangling from the snags of yesterday's events. His gaze drifts toward Master Hiro as he reaches for a ceramic cup and begins to pour an amber liquid into it, its viscosity like molten gold on a winter's day. For a moment, time stands still within this small dojo. The world outside recedes as Kaido watches Master Hiro raise the cup in silent tribute. Then, with an almost imperceptible nod from his mentor, he sets the task of transforming moldy grains into sake back onto its pedestal, each challenge building upon the last like a master craftsman, adding layers to a delicate piece of lacquerware. With a quiet determination that barely ripples through his voice, Master Hiro invites Kaido to taste their handiwork. The moment hangs suspended as they both wait for the right words, much like when preparing for an unspoken test, each breath anticipating a verdict on months' worth of lessons distilled into this single, quiet moment. Kaido's hand hesitates above his own cup before lifting it toward his lips with measured slowness. As he sips, his senses are transported to distant fields where grain ripened under the sun's golden rays, each flavor a fleeting glimpse at an unseen world hidden within the layers of texture and smell that comprise this particular sake. In the stillness following their shared silence, Kaido becomes aware of how much time has passed since dawn. Sunlight now casts long shadows across the dojo floor as it makes its way toward noon's promise, each passing moment imbuing him with an almost palpable sense of exhaustion, like carrying a weighty bundle through snow. As he finishes his sake and sets down the cup, Kaido realizes that Master Hiro has disappeared into the adjacent room. He trails behind his mentor, tracing footsteps on worn tatami mats to reach a small storage area tucked away near the rear wall. Its contents an assortment of wooden kegs, ceramic vats, and other forgotten treasures scattered about like memories from long-forgotten seasons. In this dimly lit space where scents lingered in every nook, Kaido spots Master Hiro hunched over an old sake recipe book, turning pages that crackle with age. The air is heavy with dust particles dancing within the faint glow cast by a single candle, as if trying to capture memories long past but still clung to with quiet reverence. With each step toward his mentor's side, Kaido becomes immersed in this sea of paper and parchment, where handwritten notes from forgotten ancestors mingle with Master Hiro's own annotations scrawled between lines. The weight of the book, almost too heavy for one hand alone, settles upon him like an unspoken promise, a testament to lives lived, lessons learned, and seasons turned. Master Hiro looks up as Kaido approaches, his eyes crinkling at the corners with a quiet warmth that dissolves some of the tension lingering from their earlier task. "You're not quite there," he says softly, before gently opening another page to reveal an illustration of sake mash spread across a wooden tub's surface, its delicate details etched into wood like whispers in the darkness. Kaido leans forward, taking care not to touch the pages as Master Hiro begins to describe the principles behind Junmai de Jinjo brewing. Their conversation meanders through hours past dawn and sun-kissed fields where rice once ripened under blue skies, each word a thread weaved into an intricate tapestry of tradition and time. As his mentor continues speaking, Kaido finds himself lost within this labyrinth of stories from distant mountains, river valleys, and hidden corners. With every passing moment, he feels the weight of responsibility settle heavier upon him like stone stacked upon stone, until finally, in a quiet epiphany that transcends explanation, it all becomes clear. Time itself seems to bend as Master Hiro finishes his words and looks toward Kaido with an expectant nod, awaiting the student's understanding. The stillness before them hangs suspended like a single note played on a flute left lying forgotten, until without warning, it shatters into fragments of realization that scatter through Kaido's mind like autumn leaves in a gentle breeze. The world outside seeps back in as their lesson comes to a close, sunlight piercing the windows and illuminating shadows cast upon walls long unused. Master Hiro carefully closes the old recipe book while Kaido takes up his things, feeling both wearied by lessons learned yet buoyed by a newfound sense of purpose that lingers like smoke from an extinguished flame. In this atmosphere, suspended between exhaustion's weight and the thrill of discovery, Kaido trails after his mentor toward their next task. Another day unfolding within these worn walls where Sake Mash has been transformed into something greater than its parts. As they walked through the dimly lit corridors, The soft creaking of worn wooden floors beneath their footsteps was the only sound that broke the stillness. Kaido's eyes were heavy with fatigue, but he couldn't help feeling a spark of excitement within him. He had always been fascinated by the art of sake brewing, and his mentor Hiro seemed to sense it. Today, we'll be working with grains that have gone through a process few would consider acceptable, Hiro said, his voice low and measured as they reached their destination, a small, cramped room filled with rows upon rows of wooden barrels. The air inside reeked of damp earth and something else Kaido couldn't quite place. Moldy, he asked, wrinkling his nose in distaste. Hiro nodded solemnly. Yes, moldy grains are often considered waste by other breweries, but we're not like them. We coax the life out of imperfection. Kaido's eyes widened as Hiro led him to a specific barrel at the back of the room. A small wooden lid was removed with a creak, revealing a layer of grayish-green fuzz coating the surface of the grains within. Mold, Kaido whispered, feeling his stomach drop. Hiro smiled wryly. Don't worry, it's not as bad as it looks. In fact, it adds complexity to our sake. As they began working on the moldy grain mixture, scrubbing away at the fungus with soft bristled brushes, and adding precise amounts of filtered water, Kaido couldn't shake off his doubts. This is madness, he muttered under his breath as Hiro handed him a small vial containing a peculiar liquid. What's that? Sake starter, Hiro explained patiently, demonstrating how to carefully pour the liquid into a separate container filled with clean grains. An alcoholic yeast culture, Kaido asked, fascinated despite himself. Hiro nodded. The key is in understanding what we're trying to achieve here, balance within chaos. Kaido scratched his head as he watched Hiro expertly measure out ingredients and blend the mixture into a steaming concoction that would eventually become their sake. As they worked side by side, Kaido couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at his mentor's dedication. It was more than just brewing. It was an art form that wove together tradition, experimentation, and patience. What happens if this doesn't work? Kaido asked hesitantly, feeling the weight of responsibility for their experiment settle upon him. Hiro chuckled softly as they poured a small amount of the mixture into a clay cup. Failure is an essential part of our journey. It's where we discover what not to do. The two sipped from separate cups in silence, eyes closed in appreciation as the warm liquid danced on their tongues. The flavors, earthy, floral, and with just a hint of bitterness from the mold, mingled together into something remarkable. You know, Hiro said suddenly, opening his eyes to meet Kaido's gaze, I think it's time for you to understand that being a samurai isn't about cutting down enemies or adhering strictly to tradition. It's about cultivating life in unexpected places. As they sipped their peculiar sake together, the taste lingering like memories of battles fought and won, Kaido felt his perceptions shifting. This wasn't just an art form, it was a way of life. In that instant, something snapped within him. A spark ignited deep within his chest, illuminating new paths he had yet to tread. The warmth of sunlight seeped through the tatami mats, casting a gentle glow on the polished floorboards. You stood by the window, running your hand along the ridged edge of the wooden frame as you watched the morning fog lift off the castle walls. In this quiet moment, the sounds of preparation began to stir within the castle's inner sanctum. Clinking pottery, murmured conversations, and the soft scraping of sandals on stone. Your stomach growled in anticipation of breakfast, a meager but comforting meal after an early morning training session with the other young samurai. You made your way through the dimly lit corridors to the kitchen, following the scent of steaming rice and simmering miso soup. Inside, you found the castle's cook, Kaido, stirring a cauldron over the open flame while his wife expertly kneaded dough for the day's bread. The air was thick with the smell of cooking oil and baking yeast. The kitchen door creaked shut behind you as you entered, releasing a faint echo through the narrow passageway outside. Kaido glanced up from his stirring post, acknowledging your presence with a slight nod before returning to his task. You slid onto one knee beside him on the worn wooden stool, and he handed you a steaming bowl of rice and miso soup. The flavors burst in your mouth, rich, savory, and comforting as you took your first spoonfuls. Kaido watched with an air of quiet satisfaction, his expression softened by the gentle morning light that streamed through the window above him. You recognized this subtle gesture. It was a small act of kindness he reserved for those he considered part of the inner circle. The cook's attention returned to the cauldron, where the broth continued to simmer and reduce in volume. Your spoon clinked against the bottom of your bowl as you finished your meal, leaving only a thin residue of sticky rice at the bottom. The hollow feeling within your stomach remained, but it was a small price to pay for the fleeting respite from your duties. Outside the kitchen door, the soft sounds of castle life continued. Footsteps echoed in the passageways, murmured conversations drifted through the corridors, and distant drums beat out their rhythmic cadence. You knew that as you left this warm space behind, you would soon find yourself amidst the hustle and bustle of another day within these stone walls. The faint scent of incense wafted from a nearby alcove, mingling with the savory aromas of cooking food to create an enticing bouquet. Within the alcove stood a delicate ceramic vase, its surface painted in vibrant hues that seemed almost garish against the muted tones of the kitchen's surroundings. The air around it vibrated with the faint hum of incense smoke, as the morning light coaxed out the subtle colors and patterns etched into the glaze. Your gaze drifted from the vase to Kaido, who stood motionless beside you, lost in thought for a moment before refocusing on his task. His expression softened once more as he handed your empty bowl back across the counter, the gentle clinking of ceramics against wood echoing through the quiet morning air. You rose and passed by him without speaking, the silence between you thick with understanding. The morning sun now illuminated much of the inner castle grounds, bathing the courtyards in a warm, golden light that seemed to seep into every nook and cranny. Shadows receded as people began their daily routines. Servants bustled about their tasks. Guards stood watch at strategic intervals, while the daimyo himself emerged from his chambers, ready to face another day of governance. You followed the stream of castle inhabitants towards the central courtyard, passing by clusters of samurai in training who were practicing forms on a raised platform. Their instructors called out adjustments in tone and pitch as they went through their drills, some with greater enthusiasm than others. Your own training had yet to reach this level, for now you focused on mastering the fundamentals. The sound of drums grew louder as a procession made its way towards the central courtyard. Guards bearing banners at their front, followed by several samurai carrying intricately decorated parasols over ceremonial attendants clad in rich silk robes. This was an unusual sight, not even a full-fledged ceremony, and you wondered if it had anything to do with today's agenda. You noticed that Kaido's wife stood among the onlookers near the courtyard entrance, her hands clasped together as she watched the procession approach. Her eyes were fixed intently on one of the attendants in particular, a tall woman dressed from head to toe in sumptuous black silk who seemed out of place amidst all this fanfare. A faint scent wafted through your nostrils, unfamiliar yet not unpleasant, carried by the gentle breeze that rustled through the castle's eaves. It was almost as if someone had passed nearby, but when you turned towards the source of the smell, there was no one in sight. The sensation faded quickly, leaving behind only a faint memory of something earthy and floral. As the procession reached its destination near the central courtyard pond, an air of anticipation settled over the gathering crowd. Some whispered among themselves, others seemed lost in thought as they watched their lord's attendants disembark from the cortege. You felt drawn into this momentary tranquility, suspended between the routine duties ahead and a fleeting sense of uncertainty. Among those watching was one face you recognized, the castle physician, Dr. Matsumoto, who stood on the periphery of the gathering with an air of quiet curiosity about him. His eyes seemed to be locked onto the woman in black silk, as if he too had noticed something peculiar about her presence here today. You continued observing the scene unfold before your eyes, people milling around, attendants moving into place, and guards positioned at strategic intervals, all while a gentle breeze rustled through the castle's leaves. It was clear that this assembly served more than one purpose, though what it actually signified remained unclear to you as of yet. With each passing moment, whispers spread throughout the crowd like ripples on water, rumors about an impending visit from a high-ranking noble, speculations regarding a possible marriage arrangement for their lord's younger sister. Some even ventured theories that today would bring news related to trade agreements or military campaigns, but none seemed quite certain what lay ahead. As you stood there, your gaze drifted between the participants in this unfolding drama and Dr. Matsumoto, who appeared equally perplexed by events. Together with Kaido's wife, he watched as a hush fell over the gathering when their lord emerged from his chambers, flanked by two of his most trusted advisors. A soft rustling sound emanated from your left, probably nothing more than someone shifting their weight or adjusting their clothing. You turned towards it but saw no one in particular. Instead, you noticed how the morning light danced across the courtyard pavement as people moved into new positions around the pond area. It was almost hypnotic to watch these subtle movements amidst the backdrop of castle life. Your eyes returned to Dr. Matsumoto and Kaido's wife, both still engrossed in observing the scene before them, their expressions tinged with a mixture of intrigue and concern. You sensed that something had piqued their interest, though what it was remained unclear even to you at this stage. As you stood there frozen in time, Dr. Matsumoto's eyes snapped towards yours, his gaze piercing through the fog that had begun to clear from your mind. Kaido's wife, too, looked up, her dark hair tied back in a simple knot at the nape of her neck, her features softening into a gentle smile as she took in your condition. Matsumoto hastened towards you, his long strides devouring the distance between you and his makeshift examination table. Kaido's wife followed closely behind, a look of concern etched on her face. They reached your side, their voices hushed but urgent as they began to examine you more thoroughly. What happened, doctor? Matsumoto asked, his fingers probing gently at the spot where your head had struck the stone floor. You were attacked by something or someone. Kaido's wife shot him a warning glance, her eyes darting back towards the doors of the study as if expecting some unseen threat to burst through them at any moment. It was nothing, she said softly, placing a reassuring hand on your shoulder. Just a minor incident, I'm sure. Doctor. Matsumoto raised an eyebrow, his skepticism plain. A minor incident. You were both transported here. 1 minute you're walking down the corridor outside this room and the next, this. He gestured to the various artifacts scattered about the study, ancient scrolls, intricately carved masks, strange devices that looked like they belonged in a steampunk novel. Kaido's wife shot him another warning glance before turning back to you. We'll talk later, she said quietly, her voice barely audible over the sound of your own ragged breathing. As if sensing an unspoken cue, doctor. Matsumoto began to move through his examination with renewed vigor, prodding and poking at various points on your body until you winced in protest. Sorry, he muttered, hastily withdrawing his fingers from a tender spot behind your ear. I'll be more gentle. I promise. Kaido's wife intervened then, her hands deftly taking over the examination as doctor. Matsumoto stepped back, a look of embarrassment on his face. I think we're done here, she said after a few moments, her eyes meeting yours with a reassuring glint. You'll be fine. Just rest now. But you didn't feel like resting. Your mind was still foggy from the experience, but fragments were beginning to resurface, memories of walking through the castle's corridors, searching for someone, stumbling upon an open door and catching sight of Kaito's wife, her eyes wide with fear as she whispered something in Dr. Matsumoto's ear. As you watched them work together, a nagging sense of unease began to creep over you. What were they hiding? What secrets lay beyond the veil of their polite smiles? A faint recollection flickered at the edge of your consciousness. Kaido himself standing by a window high up in one of the castle's towers. He was gazing out across the gardens below, his expression lost and troubled as he spoke of something called the Daimyo's favorite concubine. Ah yes, you mumbled, trying to sit up, but Kaido's wife pressed down on your shoulders. Not now, please, she said firmly. Just rest. We'll talk about this later. But it was too late. The fragment of memory had broken free from its mooring in your mind and begun to unfold like a scroll being unrolled across an ancient map. The daimyo's favorite concubine. The words echoed through your brain as you struggled to piece together what they meant, but doctor. Matsumoto was already speaking up, his eyes wide with excitement. Wait, he said, his voice low and urgent. You remember something. Kaido's wife shot him a warning glance before turning back to you. But it was too late. The words had slipped out of your mouth like water from a cracked vase. The daimyo lost her, you mumbled, the memories flooding back with sudden clarity. He lost his favorite concubine, and he's been searching for her ever since. The room fell silent then, as if time itself was holding its breath in anticipation of what would come next. The damp air clung to your skin like a wet shawl, weighing heavily on your shoulders as you stood outside the small tea house. The scent of steaming tea and wood smoke wafted out into the evening mist, enticing passers-by with its promise of warmth. As you waited for permission to enter, the soft lapping of water against the stone wall beside you provided a soothing background hum, calming your nerves after the long day's work in the fields. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming cherry blossoms, their delicate petals swaying gently in the breeze like tiny ballerinas. The wooden sign above the tea house creaked softly in the wind, its intricate carvings worn smooth by time and weather. Inside, the murmur of conversation and the clinking of tea bowls against saucers provided a reassuring hum of activity, drawing you in with promises of comfort and rest. You pushed open the door, and the warm air enveloping you was like stepping into an oven on a cold winter's morning. The heat from the wood fire crackling at the center of the room wrapped itself around your chilled skin, seeping deep into your bones as if trying to thaw out the very marrow within. The hostess, her face lined with the countless years spent tending this tea house, smiled warmly and gestured for you to take a seat. You slid onto the worn tatami mat, feeling its familiar give beneath you like an old friend's arm around your shoulders. As you settled in, the soft rustle of silk against the bamboo blinds caught your attention, drawing your gaze upward to the exquisite fan hanging from the ceiling. Its delicate patterns seemed to dance across the fabric as it turned lazily in the gentle current created by a hidden ventilation system, its slow rotation hypnotic and soothing. The air inside was thick with the smell of wood smoke, tea leaves, and a hint of incense, a potent blend that wrapped itself around your senses like a comforting shawl. The fire crackled on, casting flickering shadows across the walls as it danced in the chimney above, its warmth seeping into every corner of the room to chase away the lingering chill from outside. You sipped the hot tea that arrived moments later, feeling the warmth spread through you with each slow draft. As the minutes ticked by, the comforting routine of conversation and laughter began to weave itself around you like a blanket, softly enveloping your frayed edges and soothing the weariness of the day away. Outside, the evening mist swirled gently across the garden beyond the tea house, its tendrils curling around the stone lanterns that stood sentinel along the paths. The soft chime of their windcatchers provided a lulling melody as they stirred in the breeze, adding to the soothing symphony filling your ears. Time itself seemed to slow down within these walls, allowing you to breathe more deeply and feel the weight of fatigue lifting from your shoulders like autumn leaves rustling free on an ancient branch. The world outside receded into the background, leaving only the gentle hum of conversation, the soft clinking of tea bowls, and the steady pulse of your own heartbeat as it slowly began to synchronize with the soothing cadence of the evening. Yet even within this peaceful haven, there existed a single nagging concern, one that refused to be soothed away by the warmth or the comforting rhythms of conversation. Your robes were damp from standing outside in the misty air, and beneath them your silk undershirt clung stubbornly to your skin like a second layer of wet shawl. You shifted uncomfortably on the tatami mat, feeling the fabric rub against your still damp clothing with an unflattering squelch. It was a small irritation, perhaps, but one that refused to be silenced or ignored as easily as the rustle of silk against bamboo had earlier caught and held your attention. As you sat there, lost in thought amidst the soothing rhythms of the tea house, the gentle clinking of tea bowls continued unabated, a reminder that even within this tranquil haven, life went on with its relentless pace. The hostess refilled your cup once more, her hands moving deftly as she poured steaming hot water over delicate leaves, releasing their subtle fragrance into the air like a whispered secret. In this warm and peaceful atmosphere, where time itself seemed to be suspended in midair, you couldn't help but wonder, what would happen if a thunderstorm rolled in while you were still wearing silk beneath your robes? The thought sent a shiver down your spine as vividly imagined lightning illuminated the darkening sky outside, its fierce flash illuminating the intricate carvings on the tea house sign with an otherworldly glow and casting eerie shadows across the tatami mats within. Your heart quickened at the prospect of having to rush through the storm in damp silk, the fabric clinging maddeningly to your skin as rain lashed down from above. You shifted uncomfortably once more on the mat, feeling the moisture soak deeper into your undershirt with each passing moment, a reminder that even within this haven of peace and tranquility, life continued to unfold with its inevitable imperfections. As you pondered this uncomfortable prospect amidst the soothing rhythms of conversation and laughter, the room itself began to fade from view like mist before dawn. Your thoughts grew cloudy, weighed down by the oppressive dampness clinging to your skin, a heaviness that seemed to seep into every pore as if trying to merge with the very essence of your being. The fire crackled on, casting its gentle shadows across the walls in an ever-changing dance of light and darkness. Outside, night began to descend like a soft blanket, shrouding the tea house and all within it in a soothing layer of darkness, a reminder that even as you sat there lost in thought, life itself continued to unfold with its relentless pace, indifferent to your worries or concerns. The tea leaves steeped quietly in their bowls, releasing their subtle fragrance into the air like whispered secrets. As the minutes ticked by, your thoughts grew heavier still, weighed down by the prospect of rushing through a thunderstorm clad only in damp silk, an uncomfortable reality that seemed all but inevitable as night deepened outside. Yet even within this sea of uncertainty, there existed a small comfort, the knowledge that you were not alone. Others had worn damp robes and clung to their undershirts with frustration before. Others would do so again after your departure from this tea house, each one lost in their own private struggles as life unfolded its relentless pace around them. As the fire crackled on, casting its gentle shadows across the walls in an ever-changing dance of light and darkness, you realized that even within this tranquil haven, there existed a strange solace to be found in shared imperfections. The dampness clung stubbornly to your skin like a second layer of wet shawl, but it was not unique, for as night deepened outside, others would find themselves similarly weighed down by the small irritations and discomforts that life inevitably brought with its relentless pace. The fire seemed to grow larger in the darkness, casting an even more comforting glow across the room. The hostess moved quietly around you, refilling tea bowls and pouring steaming hot water over delicate leaves, a reminder that within this haven of peace, there existed a world where imperfections were not only tolerated but also shared. As the minutes ticked by with their relentless pace, your thoughts grew heavier still, weighed down by the prospect of rushing through a thunderstorm clad only in damp silk. Yet even amidst these worries and concerns, you found yourself drawn back to the comforting rhythms of conversation, the soft clinking of tea bowls against saucers, the murmured laughter of others as they sipped their steaming hot beverages. As night deepened outside, casting its dark shadows across the garden beyond, you knew that within this haven of peace and tranquility, there existed a strange solace to be found in shared imperfections. The dampness clung stubbornly to your skin like a second layer of wet shawl, But it was not unique, for as others rushed through storms clad only in their own undershirts, they would find themselves lost in private struggles amidst the relentless pace of life. In this warm and peaceful atmosphere where time itself seemed suspended in midair, you couldn't help but wonder, what if a thunderstorm rolled in while you were still wearing silk beneath your robes? The scent of damp earth and moss wafted through the air, carrying with it the faint hint of something metallic, perhaps a fragment of rust or oxidized copper. You stood in front of an old shrine, its wooden structure weathered to a soft silver gray that seemed almost indistinguishable from the surrounding foliage. The trees above whispered among themselves, their leaves rustling softly as if sharing some long-forgotten secret. As you breathed in deeply, feeling the dampness settle into your lungs, you noticed something peculiar about the shrine's architecture. A small stone pedestal stood at its base, adorned with a single date, 1869. New Year's Eve had been just 3 days ago, and yet this worn inscription seemed to whisper secrets of another era altogether. Your gaze drifted toward the shrine's entrance, where two weathered stone lanterns hung from hooks, their intricate designs etched into the metal like lace on fine silk. The air was heavy with stillness. No wind stirred the trees, and only an occasional bird chirp broke the silence. Your feet felt rooted to the spot as you pondered the significance of this forgotten shrine. A sudden realization struck you. What if that stone pedestal held more than just a date? What if it concealed something even more valuable, or perhaps even disturbing? The image conjured up in your mind's eye was one of dusty archives and yellowed documents, hidden away for decades. You felt the urge to brush aside the dirt and debris covering the pedestal, but some primal part of you hesitated. Your eyes wandered across the shrine's facade once more, drinking in every detail. The cracked stone tiles that formed its roof, the rusty hinges holding together a wooden door that seemed almost too small for anything other than ceremonial offerings. The air was heavy with history, each crevice and crack telling a story of abandonment, neglect, or perhaps even reverence. You remembered a whispered rumor among locals about an ancient artifact buried somewhere within these woods. Some spoke of cursed relics hidden beneath the shrine's foundation stones. Others claimed to have seen visions in its dilapidated windows at dusk. You shook your head. The tales seemed fanciful and outlandish, yet something about this place drew you deeper. Your attention settled on a small stone inscription etched into one corner of the pedestal, Oni Shinji no Meru. The kanji characters danced in your mind's eye like tiny fireflies flickering to life. You felt an inexplicable connection to those three words, almost as if they whispered secrets of a long-forgotten ritual, hidden away for generations. Without thinking, you reached out and gently brushed aside some dust from the pedestal's surface. As fine particles danced into the air, your fingers revealed what seemed like a series of faint scratches on its surface, an attempt at a date. A cryptic message in an ancient language. The thought excited but also unnerved you. This shrine felt as much a mystery to be unraveled as it did a potential source of danger. The trees above continued their soft murmurs, the sound weaving itself into your breathing. As if carried by some silent breeze, the scent of damp earth and moss intensified. Your hands rested on the pedestal now, feeling its cold stone radiate through your fingertips like an invisible current. Every detail, every whispering leaf, creaking wooden beam, or weathered stone tile seemed to be saying something different from what it said before. You looked down at your own hands resting against the pedestal and noticed how small they were in comparison. The fingers that had once held a katana now felt fragile beneath this worn inscription. A faint memory of those long-forgotten days, when steel clashed with steel on battlefields far away, stirred within you like a half-remembered dream. Your gaze lifted to the stone lanterns hanging from their hooks. Each one seemed to lean precariously forward as if trying to catch your attention. Their intricate designs etched into metal danced in your mind's eye once more. Tiny serpents curling around pillars, lotus flowers sprouting petals like translucent shells. A soft breeze rustled through the trees above now, its gentle caress carrying a faint scent of incense. Your breath caught as you recognized it. This was not just any ordinary air. It carried with it remnants of long-forgotten rituals and offerings left to decay beneath the shrine's foundation stones. The lanterns creaked softly in response to some hidden spring or ancient mechanism, their chains swaying like a chorus line. Your eyes followed the motion and settled on the inscription once more, Oni Shinji no Meru. You read it now as if you'd stumbled upon an ancient text written by hands long since petrified. The stone beneath your fingers felt strangely warm now, carrying with it whispers of generations past. People who had walked these paths, offerings left to rot and decay, rituals performed in secret. The wind died down for a moment, leaving behind only the sound of dripping water somewhere within those ancient walls, as if some hidden pipe still carried memories. A single raindrop landed on your hand now, sending ripples across the worn inscription, tiny waves washing away secrets with each passing second. You stood transfixed as more droplets fell around you like miniature drums, pounding out a rhythm both fierce and melancholy. The air felt thickening. Perhaps it was just the humidity or maybe even some hidden scent carried on that raindrop. But every detail in this place now seemed to be weaving itself into a tapestry of memories long forgotten. Each crevice told its own story, each crack whispered secrets of an era lost beneath dust and neglect. A gust swept through, rustling leaves above. It was as if nature herself wanted you there within these walls, to unravel the mysteries hidden away for so long. As one raindrop merged with another on your palm, a shiver ran down your spine. What lies buried at this shrine? Time itself seemed suspended in midair now. All that existed were the whispers of history etched into stone, and wood ancient memories stirring within you like some half-remembered dream. As you stood before the old shrine, its worn wooden gates creaking softly in the stillness, you felt an otherworldly presence stir within the air. The whispers of history etched into stone and wood seemed to grow louder, each word a gentle breeze that rustled the leaves of nearby trees. Your palms, still damp from the raindrop's kiss, tingled with anticipation. You closed your eyes, allowing yourself to become fully immersed in this eerie silence. Time itself had indeed suspended midair, like a drop poised at the edge of a cup. All else seemed frozen. The fluttering birds, the rustling leaves, even your own breathing was held captive within your chest. A faint whisper began to echo through your mind, not quite audible, but tantalizing nonetheless. It spoke of an event long past, yet somehow still with you today. A moment from a distant time that lingered on like a ghostly presence. Your thoughts drifted back centuries, as if carried by the same winds that had once swept across this land. A soft rustling sound drew your attention to your right hand. You opened one eye, half expecting to find another raindrop merging with its companion on your palm. Instead, you saw something else, a small wooden box nestled in the crease of your fingers. Your eyes widened as memories burst forth from its tiny compartments, fragments of stories long forgotten. In an instant, images began to unfold before you like scrolls unrolling on bamboo poles. You remembered the solemn procession that had once wound through these very streets, the honor-bound warriors marching behind a banner emblazoned with their clan's crest. The mournful chant of temple bells and incantations drifted from your memory, echoing off distant mountains. The wooden box in your hand creaked open as if responding to an unseen force. A delicate silk string slipped out, its colors worn yet vibrant against the dim light. It tied itself around a nearby cedar branch, securing it with an almost feral intensity. The wind responded, rustling through leaves and branches like a sigh of resignation. The memory you sought now stirred within your mind's labyrinthine corridors, fragments pieced together by whispers from stone and wood. New Year's Eve in the year 1869. Night was beginning to fall over this humble shrine as it had countless times before. The air vibrated with anticipation, thickening like a shroud of smoke that seemed always on the verge of dissipating. A young samurai stood at the gate, his armor polished and gleaming like moonlit water. His eyes were ablaze with determination as he prepared to leave this shrine behind, yet not without one final task. A weighty box rested beneath his arm, its contents wrapped in layers of silk and sealed within an ornate wooden casing. The memory shifted once more, the wind carrying you further back into time's labyrinth. You recalled a whispered rumor about a sacred ritual meant to ward off some ancient evil that had long haunted these mountains, one rumored to have been imprisoned but never truly vanquished. The shrine where this young samurai now stood held secrets and relics from ages past. Each stone, every wooden beam carried whispers of forgotten lives. With the box clutched tightly beneath his arm, he walked toward a nearby tree with branches gnarled by time's relentless hand. The air around him seemed to condense into thick fog that obscured all but the faint outline of what lay ahead. An ancient cedar, its trunk twisted and scarred from battles long past. As your recollections unfold before you like petals unfolding on a flower, you feel an increasing sense of disorientation, as if living through the very memories themselves. Each moment seems to blur into another. Each story intertwines with those surrounding it in a tapestry woven by whispers from stone and wood. Your thoughts continue their flight backward in time, carried by currents that flow both forward and back, toward what was yet to come on this New Year's Eve of 1869, as well as the events leading up to it. With each step taken through memories past, you realize your own identity is being transformed, a shroud shedding its layers like autumn leaves. This journey has become an odyssey not just through time but also within yourself, a self-discovery unfolding like cherry blossoms against winter's bleak backdrop. Who were these people, and what lay buried at the old shrine on New Year's Eve 1869? Only by following this thread of memories can you begin to unravel your own path, one that would ultimately lead you face to face with challenges as formidable as those faced by a samurai. The wind carries the sound of distant thunder now, the air grows heavy and shadows lengthen across the shrine grounds. As night falls on December 31st, 1869, it seems time itself is about to become your ally or adversary, depending on how well you navigate these intertwined worlds within yourself. Your eyes remain closed as memories continue their wild dance through the labyrinth of your mind. Yet even now, in this moment suspended between past and present, something stirs deep within. A transformation begins, not a rebirth, but rather an awakening to what lies hidden beneath the patina of years. A samurai's honor forged like steel in the fire of trials long past. In the heart of this storm that rages through memories, you find yourself poised at a threshold. Beyond it lies the uncharted terrain of your own destiny, one where only by embracing both what was and what could be can you truly come to understand why you wouldn't last a day as a samurai. The scent of pickled ginger wafts through the air, carried on a gentle breeze that stirs the dusty pages of the old grocery list tacked to the kitchen wall. It's been there for weeks now, yellowed with age and creased from being folded in half more times than you can count. You are sitting at the low table, your back against the wooden frame as you lean forward to study the scribbled notes on a piece of worn paper that seems to have seen better days. The ink has long since faded, leaving behind only faint impressions of what was once written. It's been passed down through generations of samurai wives and daughters who kept household accounts in their own secret code. Your fingers drum against the wooden surface as you try to decipher the cryptic symbols that seem to dance across the page like fireflies on a summer evening. Some are crossed out with rough strokes, while others have tiny numbers scribbled next to them, 3 for daikon radish maybe. Or is it the number of days until winter's first snow? You recall the countless hours your mother spent poring over this very list, muttering to herself as she tallied up the costs and made note of what was in short supply. Rice, always a problem, how many grains per bowl for each family member? And then there were the sweets, 2 pounds of sweetened lotus seed paste at 5 mon, which worked out to about. Well, you'd rather not think about it too closely. As you ponder the mysteries of your ancestors' culinary habits, a faint scratching noise catches your attention, the sound of rice being ground in the next room. Your sister is elbow-deep in the old millstone, her face set in concentration as she labors to produce enough for dinner tonight. The soft thud-thud-thud grows louder with each passing moment, punctuated by an occasional curse word when a particularly stubborn grain refuses to cooperate. You push back from the table and rise to your feet, stretching out cramped limbs that have been bent over the papers for too long. Your stomach growls in protest at the delay. What were you thinking, getting caught up in ancient grocery lists? Time to go see how the rice is coming along. Maybe there's even a chance of snagging some leftovers when it's all done. A faint rustling sound comes from behind you as someone enters the room. It's your grandmother, her wispy hair tied back with a threadbare ribbon and a dusting of flour on her cheek. She looks up at you over the rim of reading glasses perched on the end of her nose, achoo, before coughing out an apology. Still trying to crack that code, she asks, winking as she rummages through the papers scattered across your lap. I told Mother it was a waste of time, but no one ever listens. A dry chuckle escapes her lips, sending shivers down the back of your neck. The sound of grinding rice grows louder once more, and you notice that the smell has shifted. Now there's a hint of something else mixed in with the ginger. Your grandmother sniffs it too, then points towards the kitchen door. Ah, I see they're trying out some new recipes for tonight. A faint whispering starts up from down the hallway, soft murmurs about fishing for compliments and the old way. It's your brother, home on leave from his tour of duty in Kyoto, a young man with more than enough time to learn all there is to know about being a samurai. You take a deep breath, feeling the dust settle back onto the papers as you lean forward once again. The list stretches out before you like an endless river, its secrets waiting patiently for someone brave or foolhardy enough to tackle them head on. The smell of rice is getting stronger now, and with it, memories start bubbling up from your earliest days in this household. You recall helping your sister grind the grains by hand when she was younger than you are today. The way the cool breeze carried the scent of damp earth through open windows on spring mornings, or how mother would carefully portion out tiny cups of pickled ginger to each family member as a snack after dinner. Perhaps, just perhaps, this list holds more than just recipes. It might hold secrets about your own place in all these rituals and routines. As you gaze deeper into the scribbles, an idea starts taking shape. What if this ancient grocery list isn't so much about food at all? What if it's something far more personal? The scratching noise has stopped now. Instead, there's only silence as everyone waits for, well, who knows what a verdict on tonight's dinner may be. You listen closely to the quiet that follows, your ears tuning into every creak of the wooden floorboards beneath footsteps and every faint hum from the cooking fire in the hearth. This is where you live, amidst these sounds, smells, and textures, surrounded by people who have learned to weave their days together like threads on a loom. And this list, it's just one small part of that intricate tapestry waiting for someone with patience, or an endless supply of curiosity to unravel its secrets. Your grandmother clears her throat softly from behind you, nudging the papers back onto your lap as she heads towards the kitchen door. Time for dinner soon. Maybe we should try using those new recipes after all. The sound of clinking dishes and murmurs about food fill the air, but not before one final thought drifts through your mind. What would happen if you decided to tackle this list head on, really dig into its secrets? Would it change anything at all? Or is it just a relic from a bygone era, one that's best left buried beneath layers of dust and forgotten memories? Your fingers hesitate for an instant above the paper as you ponder these questions. It's almost like your own hands are being drawn towards this list, urging you to unravel its mysteries even if they might lead nowhere at all. A faint rustle comes from down the hallway, footsteps returning with a heavy wooden tray clutched in your brother's arms. Dinner is served. As your brother enters with the tray, the aroma of steaming hot rice and savory beef wafts through the air, momentarily distracting you from the list that still holds your attention. But only for a moment. The sound of clinking dishes and the murmur of his greeting are quickly overridden by the scratching of your pen as you continue to transcribe the cryptic entries. Your brother sets down the tray on the low table in front of you, casting a curious glance at the scattered papers and quills littering the floor around your chair. Still stuck, huh? He asks with a chuckle, plopping himself down beside you on the tatami mat. You shoot him a sidelong glance, feeling a twinge of defensiveness, but his expression is laced with genuine concern rather than amusement. He knows how enthralling these lists can be, each one a puzzle to unravel, every entry a potential doorway into a new world or insight. His eyes scan the scribbled pages before him, taking in the hieroglyphics and arcane symbols scattered among what appear to be mundane items: rice, soy sauce, dried fish. "What's this?" he asks, tracing his finger over an intricate kanji character that looks vaguely like a dragon coiled around its own tail. You hesitate for a moment before answering, unsure how much of the list is actually decipherable even by your brother or indeed yourself. But something about those eyes, so accustomed to hiding secrets behind their calm facade, makes you trust him with more than you would normally share. Well, I'm not entirely sure, you admit, feeling a thrill of excitement mixed with trepidation as the words spill out. I think it might be some sort of inventory, or perhaps even a message hidden within an inventory, but only if you know how to look for it. He nods thoughtfully, his brow furrowed in concentration as he studies the list more intently than before. The air seems to grow heavier with anticipation, each passing moment amplifying the sense that there's something here, some vital key or hidden pattern waiting to be uncovered. Your brother leans forward, elbows on knees, and speaks softly, almost reverently, of the art of deciphering these lists. You see, it's not just about understanding what they're saying. It's also a matter of context, of knowing where to look for meaning. His words trail off as he gestures toward an entry scribbled in hasty brushwork at the bottom of one page. The character is unlike anything you've seen before, its squiggles and loops appearing to shift, like sand dunes blown by the desert wind. You feel a shiver run down your spine as his finger brushes against it, sending the fine hairs on the back of your neck standing on end. Suddenly, memories flood your mind. Afternoons spent watching an elderly scholar meticulously paint delicate kanji onto sheets of washi paper. Evenings huddled around the fire with your brother and father, listening to tales of ancient battles fought over obscure territories, each anecdote rich in hidden meaning and symbolism. The connections come together like a puzzle locking into place. You remember now, this character is not just an entry on the list but a trigger for something far greater, perhaps even a memory buried deep within your own mind, waiting to be unearthed by some long-forgotten thread of understanding. As if drawn by the same hidden forces that had been urging you toward this moment all along, you find yourself turning back to face the papers scattered before you. The pen seems to move on its own now, inscribing new lines and connections as your mind grapples with the sudden influx of memories. The silence is oppressive, heavy with anticipation as both of you sit entranced by this unfolding mystery. It's almost as if time itself has slowed down around you, allowing for a momentary glimpse into the intricate web of lives lived beyond these walls, each one intertwined in some manner yet to be uncovered. The scent of damp parchment wafts through the air, a familiar tang that signals the approach of evening in this small, cluttered library. The flickering candles cast shadows on the walls as you breathe in deeply, feeling the musty aroma fill your lungs. It's been hours since you last left these stacks, hours spent poring over dusty tomes and scrolls in search of any hint about your own place within this ancient tradition. Your eyes strain against the dim light, straining to decipher the faint script on a particularly worn scroll. The parchment is so old it crackles beneath your fingers as you turn the page, releasing tiny wisps of paper into the air like specters of forgotten knowledge. Your focus falters for an instant, the words blend together in a maddening dance of ink and dust, but then the letters come clear. Gakur etched across the top, followed by the enigmatic phrase that has kept you entranced all day. Your gaze lingers on this small section before your eyes drift downward to where the text begins. Hours of study have yielded little more than a faint glimmering, like moonlight filtering through cracks in an ancient temple's stone facade. And yet, with each passing moment, that light seems to grow stronger, as if beckoning you closer still. It's almost as though. But no, the thought dissolves into uncertainty. As your head nods forward, chin dipping toward the scroll, a faint crick runs through your neck muscles. The discomfort sparks a flutter of irritation. Why did they design these ancient texts with such minuscule print? Yet it subsides quickly beneath a growing sense of excitement. This could be it. This might finally unlock the secrets that have haunted you since childhood. A nearby candle flickers, its flame sputtering in protest as your elbow nudges against a wooden shelf, sending books tumbling onto their sides with soft thuds. The sound sends shivers through the room, like whispers echoing off distant walls. Books fall around you, Kajero, Shinmei, but none hold any answers to your burning question, what is Gakyur? Your thoughts loop back to childhood stories told by your grandfather of a legendary scroll, said to contain hidden wisdom for those who dared seek it out. Rumors claim the thing was hidden in plain sight, guarded only by enigmatic symbols and riddles left behind by its creator, an eccentric shogun or perhaps some forgotten sage. You recall tales of travelers stumbling into these ancient texts by chance, a lost scroll discovered in a crumbling temple, a cryptic passage scrawled on stone in the heart of a forest. Your mind wanders further down this winding path as you sit, elbow still cradling the worn leather of your book bag against your side. Memories flicker past like shadows, hours spent listening to stories from wandering monks and townspeople who claimed knowledge of these lost scrolls, countless texts studied with varying degrees of futility, late nights poring over dusty manuscripts for any glimmer of insight. This is when you notice the air around you growing heavy, a subtle shift in temperature as night falls outside. Your breaths grow slower, heavier. It's almost as if your body has caught onto the lullaby-like rhythm of candlelight flickering against stone walls. Your eyes refocus on the scroll before you. Beneath the flicker of light dancing across its surface lies an inscription that seems to shift ever so slightly in hue with each passing moment, like a moon waxing or waning in phases yet unseen by mortal men, words written in a script that seems almost too fine for your aged eyes. As night gathers around you, darkness creeping into the room through cracks between stones and under the edges of creaky wooden shutters, something shifts subtly within these walls. The air thickens with anticipation as if time itself has been slowing to allow this one moment, just a single instant in which past and present converge like intersecting lines on an ancient parchment. You lean forward once more, chin dipping toward the worn leather binding of your book bag at your side. With fingers splayed across its cover, you feel a strange connection forming between yourself and these books, texts stacked like sentinels guarding secrets waiting to be unearthed by those brave enough to take on their weight. Your gaze drops lower still, toward where parchment edges meet the worn leather binding of an old book lying flat beside your elbow. The air feels heavy now with possibility, as though each word, every letter on that scroll holds a key hidden within it, if only you could decipher its meaning. The room's silence stretches out before you like a dark canvas, painted with hints of candlelight flickering against walls, lined by dusty texts waiting to reveal their mysteries. As you stand there, surrounded by the musty scent of old parchment and the soft glow of candlelight, your mind begins to wander back to the cryptic message etched onto that mysterious scroll. What secrets lie hidden within its words? You strain your eyes, trying to decipher the meaning behind each letter, every symbol. But it's like trying to grasp a handful of sand. The more you squeeze, the more slips through your fingers. The air in the room seems heavy with anticipation, as if the very texts on the shelves are holding their breath, waiting for you to unlock the mystery. You feel an inexplicable connection to this place, as if it's been calling out to you across time and space. The silence is oppressive yet somehow comfortable. Your gaze drifts towards a nearby shelf, where a tome bound in worn leather seems to be beckoning you closer. As you reach for the book, your fingers brush against something small and smooth, a tiny wooden box partially hidden among the texts. You lift it out, feeling an odd tingling sensation, as if it's been waiting just for this moment. The box itself is exquisitely crafted, adorned with intricate carvings that seem to dance in the flickering candlelight. A small latch on one side yields to a gentle pressure from your thumb, and the lid creaks open. Inside, you find a folded piece of paper, not a map or a message, but something far more unexpected, a beautifully drawn illustration of the same room you're standing in. Confused, you stare at the drawing as if it might suddenly spring to life before your eyes. Who could have created this? And why did they leave it here for you to find? The questions swirl through your mind like autumn leaves on an eddy current, but one thought crystallizes above all others. Someone else has been searching for the same secrets you're trying to uncover. Your ears strain to pick up any sound that might betray a hidden observer, but there's nothing. Just the soft hush of candle flames and the distant whisper of wind outside, carrying with it hints of autumn rain. A faint shiver runs down your spine as you ponder the implications. If someone else has been searching for these secrets, then perhaps they're closer than you think. You begin to scan the room once more, this time looking not just at the texts but at every nook and cranny. What other clues might be hiding in plain sight? As if responding to your sudden awareness of potential danger, a faint creak echoes through the room. It's almost imperceptible. You're not even sure it wasn't just the settling of old wooden shelves, but something about it sends a ripple of tension through your body. Your eyes dart towards the door, half expecting someone or something to emerge from the shadows. Yet when you turn back to face the room, everything seems exactly as before.